welcome to the Basement Benchwarmers podcast. We're going to start something new here this starting next few weeks. Right now is our first time we're doing it, like the Basement Benchwarmers interview series. And tonight we have the head coach and pitching coach from the Indian Trail Hawks, who made it to the sectional final this year against Oak Creek. The baseball team had a real good season at Indian Trail. And we're going to start off with them tonight. Lane, Ryan, and Jace's here with us tonight, too, to run the interview for us, and I'll have some questions, too. But first of all, how you guys doing? And why don't you guys just, to start the interview for asking more questions, how do you guys sum up the season, how it went for your first year? So let's go with that.
Yeah, I'll take it away here. Coach Ochs, obviously I graduated here from Indian Trail in 2015. First season back at the helm as a head coach here, third season with the program. I think our season went really well. I know our staff's goal is state every year, but it's kind of hard to do that in your first year in the program. So one game away, it was really awesome to accomplish that, and it's something that we can definitely build on going forward, I think. So,
yeah, I can, add on to that too. It's what we saw kind of early in the season, doing the Appleton Challenge, doing a lot of stuff that we're kind of putting out there that's new to these guys. For them, it was a good experience, and we started to see things that we lacked on early in the season really get better as the season went on, right? Like winning close games, really finishing out games. And that's all coming down to the playoffs, right? Because anything can happen when it gets to that time. So yeah. I was really impressed with the guys. A little bit of a mixture age-wise with our team, but, a lot of good senior leadership as well. So we enjoyed it.
Nice. So let's start up.
So the Appleton Challenge, what is that? Essentially, what is the Appleton Challenge for you guys to everybody else?
Right, so for us it was a 3-day event, workout, mental workout, physical workout. Basically what we did is Evan and Ryan took a day, Tim took a day, and then I took a day myself, and we all just kind of put something together to, like I said, both mentally and physically challenge them. Like Coach Tim Glidden, he put something together where they just had to take items from one side of the gymnasium to the other. And there were certain rules about it, right? Like the item can't touch the floor. You can only have a certain amount of kids in the area that are carrying at one time. And then they had to build Legos. And when you have 8 guys in one group, it's interesting to see how they all did it different. And some groups succeeded and did it really fast, and some groups didn't. And then their challenge is a physically grueling challenge. I'll let him talk about that.
Ours was fun. We did a little bit of the mental side, with a little bit of physical with Tim's, and kind of warmed him up a little bit. And then we went into the next day, where we just got after these guys. We made a little bit of an obstacle course around Indian Trail and Mahone, kept them in their small groups, same teams throughout the whole week, and had these guys basically running from station to station doing a different exercise, whether that's planking or what do you call those, inchworms across the whole entire baseball field, or running stadiums at the football field. And it's a race, but you can't leave your station until everybody is finished. So you started to see guys really get around each other and, pick each other up, whether it's a sophomore or a freshman on a little bit of the weaker side, or you got a heavier set kid that doesn't run very well, but the guys are staying there with them and pushing them. And we saw some crazy stuff that we did not expect. And, that kind of led into the season. And you can't say that that's why kids make the team. And we never will say that, but, it's something that really benefits them as the season gets going. You're going to know which guys can give up and which guys are really going to push through stuff. So that was cool to see. And then we got to get in the morning. What was it, 5 a.m. you got these guys out there?
Yeah, we got up at 5, and we had a series of events where they were just, emptying the gas tank. They had to go 7 yards down and back. And the reason for that is that Appleton's 140 miles away, so we kind of, instead of doing the miles, obviously we did yardage, and everything that we did had a little bit of meaning. And it was cool, like he said, to see some kids really push past their limit and realize what they're capable of, because that's number one when you're coaching, is getting the best out of your players. And obviously every kid does that different, and we have to approach it differently. But for them to just push themselves and realize that, hey, I have nothing left and I'm still able to get this done, just shows you everything that you have deep down inside yourself. So it was really cool to see. It was really fun. And yeah, that's definitely going to be something that, is a part of our culture. And really something that's going to be a staple in our program as long as I'm here.
Nice. So kind of sound like Survivor style in a way.
A little
like
bit,
your thing,
yeah.
I've got to finish
Absolutely.
and be done and all that. So
Yeah, it's not fun. I ran through it myself too, so I was not going to be a hypocrite with that. We ran
Nice.
through it as coaches just to make sure we had the right thing going down for that system,
Nice.
and it worked out well.
I do like when everything has a purpose, though. Like it's just not just make them run and
Right.
stuff like that. There's a purpose to what you're doing. There's a plan at the end of it.
It makes it easier for them. If
Yes,
you
it
think
does.
about it,
Yeah,
right.
when they
More
realize
competitive.
there's an end goal here.
Right.
There's not just let's just go do this.
Yeah.
Right, we're not just doing this for,
For fun.
right? Yeah, that's
Because I got to be up at 5 too. If I want to be up at 5 in the morning, it's going to be worth my while.
Right,
too.
absolutely, man, absolutely.
Yep. Go ahead, Jace.
So obviously, your guys' first season here, program that was not as strong as it could have been the last few years. But last year they had 6 wins, I believe.
Last year we went 13-14 overall. Conference wins, I'm not sure though. I think
I think it was 6 in conference. Yeah.
Yep.
And what this year we go 20-9, right?
Yeah, 20-9, 16-5 in conference for a second place finish. So it was, it was cool to see. And that's the expectations, right? Like saying that you're going for state every year, anyone can say that, but to be able to actually see it and, it came to fruition that we were 1 game away from state, it was cool to see. Because, it's no secret we're a top 5 school enrollment-wise in Wisconsin. So we have the numbers, we have the talent. Now it's just about getting the kids to buy into that, that team spirit. And, Oak Creek's a great example, right? You had their core group of kids who have been together playing varsity baseball since they were freshmen and sophomores. So it was good for us, and it was a good learning moment, especially to lose to that team.
Yep.
Because they set the precedent kind of for our conference, and
That is the standard of the SEC.
Right,
That is
exactly.
that is the goal of Indian Trail baseball.
right, and that's the standard right now, right?
Yep.
But going forward, we want us to be the standard.
Yep.
So it was cool to get just there, not close enough, but I think getting there and just having that experience is going to help us down the road, right? Not only with our juniors and sophomores that were called up, but for the freshmen seeing it, right? This is what we expect. This is what you guys have to live up to, and this is what it means to be an Indian Trail baseball player.
Yeah, and obviously, Indian Trail baseball sums up getting to that game. The game before that shortstop makes the right play. We don't get to that game, but that mentality of never giving up, get through, load the bases, and Jack Zeller has that walk-off hit that might not ever happen, but you get to that point still, and then you get to that final game, which we have our learning point going forward. And a lot of those younger kids obviously do build from that now, and now you guys obviously you learn a lot out of those too, being your first season. So, but I know you went to Auburn for 4 years.
Yep.
So Auburn 4 years and then Milwaukee for 2.
Yeah.
So obviously everything you learned there, you pitched 2 College World Series you were in.
So there was one.
One?
Made it to the College World Series my sophomore year. Yeah. So I'm banged up a little bit injury-wise, but, freshman year was really the year that I had an impact. And just learning from that, right? Not even in coaching, these guys, and they'll give us crap all day, too. They don't want to hear about our college career or our high school career, until it's over for them. They realize, like, oh, it's cool to look back on. But really, as a coach, taking stuff that I learned throughout college from my coaches and from players and leaders on the team and seeing how to implement that stuff to a high school program where a lot of these kids don't want to go play college baseball, and that's fine. But we emphasize the fact where whatever it is that you're doing in this life, that you do it to the fullest potential. And there's a lot of things that you can learn from baseball that apply to life as well.
Yeah, and then obviously I know you played all over the diamond and football too. I know you played all over the field and multi-sport athlete, and you played at Triton for 3 years or
Just 1 year.
Just 1 year.
I ended up tearing my UCL, so I
And
ended
then
up
you
transferring out. Yep.
Parkside then.
Yep.
And obviously multi-sport athlete, multi-tool athlete. How does that all draw to your coaching aspect too?
Right. So I prided myself on being the smartest player out there, and that was why I was able to play multiple positions and be successful at them. Growing up in football, my first position was offensive line, and I was like 50 pounds, and I was playing up like I was supposed to be playing Bambinos, which it's funny looking back. But I started from playing offensive line to fullback to linebacker, quarterback, and just seeing the field from different perspectives and viewpoints and learning different ways. And on the defensive side, how am I shutting down the offense and vice versa? It just helps you to be better prepared, and you can react faster, and you can just let your athletic abilities take over. Because now that I'm the strength and conditioning coach, I was probably in the best shape of my life last year around this time. The most explosive I've been, fastest I've been, strongest I've been, most heavy set that I've been. So I wasn't that athlete per se in high school. I was a good athlete, and I was above average. But what made me elite was my smartness and knowing where to go with the football, knowing where to go with the baseball. So I try to apply that in my coaching philosophy. I tell these kids, you're not an infielder. You're not just an infielder. You're a utility guy. You can play outfield.
Well, great example of that, Connor Foster.
That's exactly what I was
last
gonna say.
2 years, PO.
Yep.
And this year, bring a bat tomorrow, Foster. You're going to hit. Hits great all winter. One of our best hitters all season. Plays first well. And these last few weeks,
He was in the outfield.
yes,
First
you don't
team
see that.
all-conference.
First team all conference outfield, right? And like I said, that's kind of I learned that from my coach at Triton was he didn't have a set position for me, right? I played third base. I played shortstop in college. I played second. Did I have any business playing shortstop? Probably not. But if you can hit, you're gonna play. You're gonna be in the lineup.
They'll find a position.
Yeah,
Yep.
so, and that's what we kind of told them, right? We had guys shuffling out there in left field. We had some guys shuffling in at first in the beginning of the season. So if you can hit, you're going to be in the lineup, okay? And the more prepared that you are to play any position, the easier it is for me to make that decision, right? If I know that you absolutely cannot play the outfield, and you're not confident in that, I'm probably not going to put you there because I don't want you to fail, I want to set you up for success, not that failure is not going to happen. But just being ready mentally and knowing where to go with the baseball and being able to, just make an adjustment and be an athlete is really what, my philosophy, and I know that these guys share that philosophy with me as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you've been telling the kids that since February. Be ready for anything. You guys might go somewhere you never thought you were going to be playing this year, and I mean, you'll get a guy like Peyton Mancusi, was someone that was like, you might be a guy for us, you might not be a guy for us. 2 weeks into the season, he's batting leadoff and playing an everyday position. So stuff like that, that's what a lot of these kids, they've taken in, and you see throughout the season you've seen a lot of these other kids starting to get reps and wanting to play other positions, especially at the lower levels. When I watch some of the JV games, you see people out there trying to do more because they know that next year I might be a guy that can go anywhere.
Yeah, if we need a left fielder, guess what? That's the only open spot. So no matter what position you play, you need to learn how to do that because that's what's going to give you the best opportunity to get a chance to get on the field and stay on the field. So,
yeah. And so obviously the standard, we now have our standard here. So just going forward with this program, I mean, seeing a lot of the freshmen that came in, and I know we have a very large junior, now senior class. How do we feel this program is really going to start to grow now over the next few years?
I think, obviously this was my first year, so it was cool to see that standard set. But now we got to get beyond it, right? Now we have to get to state. And like you said, we have a lot of talent coming up, so it's just us getting our hands on them and molding them into what it is, what it means to be a Hawk, right? And we've talked about this as a coaching staff throughout the season, a lot after the season. How are we going to get the best out of these guys? How are we going to get them to play the type of baseball that we want? And having a full off season is going to be insane. Like, it's going to be awesome. With these open gyms, we can't necessarily coach them up, right? But we can be there. We can still talk to them. We can tell them how to act, right? Because I think, the biggest thing for me is how are you going to be as a human being? How are you going to be as a person that has to function in society? In adding those traits, being a good person, being on time, being respectful, that just follows to the baseball field.
Correct.
So once you start doing those things off the field and it's an expectation and it's something that you do every day, it's going to carry to the baseball field, right? And it's just going to take that jump. So I know that's, kind of not off topic per se, but you would expect more so of an answer of what we're going to do on the baseball field. It starts off the field, right? These are high school athletes, and that carries on to the field. And, building that family and that culture is what really gets the kids to come together and play for each other, right? Because it's no secret, right? We all know Gavin Lux, right? That's our boy. he still talks about missing playing high school baseball. There's nothing like it, right? I still miss and still think about playing high school football randomly, right? It's the most fun you're ever going to have in your life.
Yep.
So getting them to buy in and become good people in the process, the sky is the limit, right?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you playing football and baseball, both of you play baseball, you're always a part of talented teams. You went to state one time, you were at that high level of playoffs 3 times, I believe, or twice.
For baseball?
Baseball.
I was one game away from the College World Series in college, JUCO College World Series. High school, went to state, one game away from state in basketball. We lost to a really good Franklin team who went to state my senior year, my junior year in football. So, yeah, I've always been a part of winning programs, especially at this school. So it feels good to get it back and, get that winning mentality back.
Yeah, and bring that energy back in that was there and just bring it with you. And I know, obviously, a lot of winter projects. So now that you and Coach Evan Myers, you guys both have a full offseason with these pitchers, do you guys really have a plan on what you want to go in and do? Or is it sort of just going to be building a plan this first offseason?
So
get them all to throw 100 miles an hour.
That's
a plan.
That would be ideal. And even more so, throwing strikes. And it's so easy to say, harder to do. And I understand that, being in their shoes before. But at the end of the day, we have exit interviews. We talk to these kids. We're going to set an expectation for them, and we're not going to make it unrealistic. I'm not going to go ask Jack Zeller to throw 95 next year. That's not realistic. But for a guy like that, we've been really big on getting the guys on your 5 to 10 pitchers on the staff, right, opposed to your top 3-4 pitchers. Having them learn from our top guys so that you understand what works, right? Is it pace? Are you making the hitter uncomfortable in the box with throwing strikes at a high pace, right? And we don't have a lot of high velo guys on our team. We had a great ERA this year because we held base runners and we threw strikes. And that's exactly how you're going to get on the mound here because nobody, even the parents, no fans, nothing, nobody wants to watch walks. And it's the most frustrating thing as a coach and one of the hardest things to teach because it's a mentality, right? And my thing was always to make it personal, right? So when a guy steps in the box, it's personal to you, and it has to be, right? But in the off season, it's about taking care of our arms and really rethinking our process on how we're actually doing, going about our work. Is it drive line where we're not really sure what that means, but we're just out here throwing weighted balls, or is there a purpose behind it? I was a long toss guy. I didn't even do bands in high school. What felt good to me felt good, and I just rode with it, and I saw linear growth.
You were more of the Tanner Johnson style when he played with me, and that was him every day. He was always going pole to pole playing catcher.
Right.
I remember we'd go to the football field. He was throwing fence to fence. That was I never seen him really do bands. He was just in the weight room, and he was just throwing.
Right.
And I look at him now, Murray State. So
exactly, and that may be his approach, and that may be my approach. Some other guys might like to go out there, not even throw a pregame bullpen. We had Jack Zeller this year multiple times not want to throw a pregame bullpen because he just wants to get loose and then go. And that's totally okay. So it's about finding guys' routine so that they can run their own show.
Correct.
So that when we get to the season, when we don't have a lot of time, it's go time. And you already know your plan.
I do like what you said, though, about being taking it personal, because it's weird. Baseball is probably one of the few team sports that it's actually is a one-on-one sport at a lot of times.
Right.
It's you versus a hitter,
or
a pitcher versus a hitter. It's very weird. Like football, it's not like that. Basketball's not like that. You might get one-on-one, but there's teams that can help. Like, someone going to play help defense. There's things in baseball. You're the pitcher. Guy hits a home run off you. It was off you.
Yep.
Right.
Or you strike out. That's on you.
Right.
I mean, so it's a crazy sport. And there's a lot of thinking behind it too. People don't think there's so much thinking in baseball that it's a smart person's game. It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you make it personal, you take the mechanics out of it. You take all the other thoughts out of it about hitting a spot on the strike zone instead of, hey, I'm going to compete here and I'm just better than you right now.
Yep.
And that's all it comes down to.
I'm going to do what I do.
And that stuff gets thrown out the door, and it's just my stuff versus yours.
Well, and that's the biggest thing, right, is you said compete, right? That was our mantra this year. That was our mentality, is compete until the last pitch. Yep. So with throwing strikes and competing and not walking guys, that keeps everyone else around us, in the game, right?
Yes.
It makes your defense have less errors. It makes your defense start making plays because they're ready for the baseball and they're expecting it. So that was my biggest thing, and obviously I'm not the pitching guy, but if you watched me during games, when we had guys that were walking, I'm walking back and forth, I'm pacing, I'm like, hey, Ryan, how many has he got? How many has he got left? Like, I can't stand that. And I think our guys got to see that a little bit too. The guys that weren't in the game necessarily, that were watching and kind of listening to the coaches talk, is you got to compete up there. You can't be scared. Whether you got to make it personal or whatever it is, you got to find something to where you can, compete and throw strikes as a pitcher. Simply put, that's all that matters. I can take the hits, right? But when you're walking the show or walking the house, it's tough. You can't defend that. So the free bases thing, it's just not going to be a part of our program, right? Like it's a mentality, and the more you speak about it and the more that you do it, the more it's going to happen. So,
and we call it putting guys in the icebox, right? You've heard us say this, Jason, many times. Especially on cold days when your fielders are sitting out there in the cold weather, not moving, not getting anything done. It's just walk, walk, walk. You're putting guys in the icebox. We're not in the dugout hitting, and that's when errors happen. That's when balls are being thrown all over the place. So, strike one's important.
Yep. Yeah. Is there anything else you have?
Yeah,
yet?
I have a question for you guys. If you can, maybe you don't have a high or low of the season. I'm sure you always do as a coach. But if you just pick one of the highest points of the year and maybe take away the playoff part and all that, because that's obviously great winning the playoff games. That's awesome. But maybe a high point, a low point of the season you could pick up. Go start with the low points for you guys. Like a low point that you saw, okay, we're at a point now we need to move this way. We need to make the arrow go up here. And then maybe a point you were like, we're really where we want to be right now. This is where we want to be. So maybe
I would say low point wise was probably after that third game in the Oak Creek series. Every game before that we had either won or it was a close loss. I think we only had one or two run losses the whole season besides that game. It was just frustrating. I think we got to the end of our gauntlet, like we called it. We were playing 4 games a week, right? Every Saturday we were playing. We weren't getting to practice. And we put in some really good work in those first 2 weeks of the season that stuck with our guys. And then we kind of started reverting back to old habits. And it was really apparent in that last game. I felt like we had just kind of, given up a little bit. And that's not who we are, right? Like I said, competing to the last pitch. So for me personally, that was kind of our biggest low point, just because you could pick some other games, but we battled a lot of injuries and a lot of, culture setting suspensions that really hindered us. But we were pretty much at full strength that game against Oak Creek, I believe. And I just hate, I think it was an 8 or 9 run loss. We just stopped competing. And for me, that's the number one thing. If you guys go out there and you get your butt kicked, but you're competing every pitch and they just flat out beat you, I can handle that. But when you quit, when you give up and you stop playing as hard as you can, that's where my issue lies. Yeah. So
I would say.
Go ahead. I will say though, that last Oak Creek game, we faced the same kid in the sectional final. And they competed every pitch. Right. You just lost to an Oak Creek team that was the standard, and that is who we need to be, and just that complete opposite. And
that was the growth that we went through.
That exactly. Yeah. And you said that a lot after that game, that at the beginning of the season, you don't know if that first game of that day, we don't win that game maybe. You don't see that. But from February to then, that's how much the arrow's gone up in one season.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Right. And the high point for me was early in the season, honestly. It was the Union Grove win, where these guys were a top 5 team in the state, and we had our number 3 pitcher out there, and he went out there and shoved, and he absolutely dominated, and our hitters were hitting well. They had a good arm on the mound. Not their best, I know, but they had a good arm. And I think that kind of set the tone for the season in terms of, oh, shoot, we can compete with anybody here.
That's when the light bulb went off.
That's where it was like, we're not beating the teams we're supposed to beat. We're beating a team that nobody thought we were supposed to beat, right? And then we were on the edge of top 25 all year. And I think that confidence of beating a team like that, it carries weight throughout the season. They start to know, like, hey, it doesn't matter who we're playing. We competed all year with top 25 teams with a sophomore on the mound even. So we got to be able to do that as well. So there were some high points. And the low point for me was just, that game 3 against Tremper. We had some disciplinary issues that we talked about that really affected our culture and what we were trying to set. So we were running a lot. A lot. I mean,
yes, we were.
Kids were not liking it. But at the end of the day, you don't like it, show up to class, get your grades good, and we won't have any of this because, throwing helmets, throwing equipment not showing up to class, being disrespectful to your teachers. None of that was going to pass this year. And Lane did an unbelievable job with that as well. And we were willing to risk a win here and there to be able to set that for the future. And I think that that really helped us down the line.
I think that's huge when you're coaching something like that, to set that precedent. Also, and I got the feeling from your team and talking to Jace, you really, there was nobody that you put on a high pedestal on your team.
No.
There was the best player on the team was treated the same as the lowest freshman on the team.
Mm-hmm.
It was same all across the board. Nobody got, well, you're the best players. We're going to let you not do what you want. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things. It happens, too. It happens. It happens very easily, I mean, with coaches. And not on purpose. They kind of fall into that, just they don't really realize they're doing it.
Right.
And it's.
And that's, growing up, being at Indian Trail, that's kind of where I'll give Mike McKay a little shout out for football. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
He was a little bit of an asshole, right? When you go look at it, you had kids literally wanting to fight him, but that's because he held them accountable, right? So those kids were wanting to fight him in the moment, and then years down the road, they're like, "Hey, thank you, because you pushed me and you made me realize that I'm not going to get away with this dumb stuff, right? I got to go to class. I'm not going to backtalk a coach. I'm not going to throw my equipment." And that was something that I established with our staff as, hey, I do not care if we lose some games because we have to set the disciplinary standard. It's going to happen, and obviously you don't want it to, because that Tremper game did hurt us at one point. Obviously we dropped the last game against Case, but we had a chance at winning the conference, and that game set us back. But it was greater to set that standard and to take that loss early in the season, because those kids that did have the disciplinary issues, the first thing they said, they were 3 seniors. The first thing they said to me was, one, how did you find out? Which I got eyes and ears everywhere, so I'm not going to give my secrets away.
Nope, never.
But 2 afterwards, they just said thank you. That would have been fine in the past, and they learned their lesson. They realized how much it sucked, but there's consequences to your actions. And being a student athlete, playing your sport is not a right, it's a privilege. This goes back to what we were saying. You have to be a good person. You have to be a good human being, because a lot of these kids aren't going to play baseball down the road, right? They got to go work. They got to go do whatever it is that they got to do to function in society. And you're not going to get away with that stuff. So setting that precedent and setting that standard right away was tough. It was stressful. And I knew the guys weren't going to like it, but it needed to be done. And that's what helped us grow throughout the season. And that's what's going to help us continue to grow as a program going forward, because now the kids know what to expect, right? Like you said, told the kids to bring their track shoes a lot early in the season, and it just needed to be done. So I'm definitely proud of how much they grew and, the standard that they set. I know we keep saying the standard, but it's true. Like, they had to go through some growth, and they had to make some mistakes, and they had to learn from those. And that's what the game of life and that's what the game of baseball is all about, is how are you going to react to the failures that you face in those situations.
Yeah.
And I think that was cool what you said with the pedestal, because one of our captains actually didn't play much at all this year and actually won us a playoff game. Jalen Allman.
Okay.
So he wanted to be around, and he would compliment the coaching staff regardless of him not playing, right? And that's to say, that is something to learn from, and that's a lesson for a lot of these guys. Is he didn't give up. We actually, played him because of the way that he was practicing. We were like, you know what? There may be better options average-wise, stats-wise. You can look at a book and do that, but you can see a kid and be like, that's a senior who's been practicing his ass off. You're going to give him that opportunity, and he showed up big for us. And he held guys accountable all year regardless of him playing or not. So that's the pedestal thing for you right there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Well, that comes from coaching. That's to you guys there. I mean, that shows that's respect for you guys, and it's hard to get that from high school kids sometimes. It's tough.
Absolutely.
And usually the kids that get that far with you, they're in the program. They're buying in. So it's
Right.
not like you got to. It's you'll figure it out. Obviously, you know this. The first couple weeks, you see the kids that are like, yeah, they're not going to last here.
Yeah.
There's no chance. We're not going to run them out, but they're going to run themselves out, basically.
Right.
You've seen it at every level. You see that. It doesn't matter where you coach or who you coach.
Right.
You can just tell by looking at it. Sad. It's sad to say, and people, but it's not.
It can't be
you
perfect.
You can just tell and go, yeah, we'll give them a chance.
Absolutely.
This might be a tough one, though, to crack. And somebody's making a project.
Yep.
As a coach, you go, I want to work with this kid because something there. Let's just see what we can do. And
that's the thing that I'm proud of myself for, is that I was very honest and straight up and blunt with these kids. I had that conversation with a couple kids. Hey, we took a chance on you. This is what we brought you in for, and this is where your opportunities are going to lie. And with you acting like this right now, you're kind of taking yourself out of that spot. I think after the first or second week, because our rule is, hey, if you, as a player, if you have any question about playing time or like what you can do to get on the field, come to me. So I had a lot of kids that did that, and that was awesome. Because for a kid to, approach their coach and ask to have a meeting, that's hard to do. But we did a really good job of being honest with these kids and telling them what they needed to do and not comparing them to other kids. But, hey, this is what you need to do to get more opportunities to get on the field. And I think they respect that more when you're just honest with them and you kind of tell them the truth. Like I said, they might think you're an asshole right then and there, but then they look back and they're like, well, hey, he was honest with me. He's straight up. I can respect that. And that's something that I'll always do.
Well, yeah, I will say one thing, though. I think we talked about this before. I think me and Coach Ochs crossed paths years ago when he played for the CYC Eagles, correct?
I played for the Colts, actually.
Oh, the Colts, yeah, for
Yes.
Scott. Who was your coach?
Scott Wells.
Scott Wells. 'Cause I coached the CYC 49ers back then. Yeah,
you had, I remember all those guys.
Michael played,
Roach,
Michael and Alex
Hoff,
Kirpin.
you had
Yeah,
the Kirpins.
Yeah, they all played for me. And then,
that's a good team.
Yeah, so.
You guys freaking beat us on like a last-second touchdown in the rain in the playoffs.
Oh, it was on. I remember hook and ladder. We went.
Yes. Goodness gracious.
We ran a
Logan
hook and
Hawkins running down the field.
We ran a hook and ladder. I remember that.
Oh.
So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, we crossed paths. But I think the year before you beat us, though. I think you played. Yeah, you guys are a really good team. Your fifth grade year.
The year after.
Oh, the year after you guys had a
year
really good
after.
year. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
So yeah, we crossed paths before. We've talked about this. It's funny, but all the kids, grew up but Roach's our neighbor.
Yep.
Michael Roach and Brian. So, but yeah, you guys. So next year, I really believe you guys have a great foundation. I think you guys have a. Well, that's one more question I had. What are you ever turning next year? What do you? It's a lot. Sounds like your cupboard's pretty full. It sounds it's good.
Yeah. So we lost 8 seniors. And then we have our exit meetings tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
So based off of our playoff roster, we had 25 total. So that leaves us with 17. I'll be straight up and honest like I have been this whole time. Nobody has a spot, right? So we don't necessarily know who we have returning, but out of that junior class, I mean, I'll name some guys, right? We got Jack Zeller, Sam Callow, Brad Philippus, who was a catcher for us. You got Connor Shada, who's got an opportunity, Alex Smith, Sioko, Nick Beth, Connor Peck. Those are just some of the guys, right? I missed some of them, right?
Yeah.
But those are juniors that we are, planning on and expecting to lean on. Now, if they're going to,
if they want to be leaned on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you want to be pushed, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be leaned on, then they will get those opportunities. But we have a lot of guys that are hungry to play varsity. And I'm a firm believer in, we didn't have any freshmen that we called up. I think we only had one freshman that we even brought to JV, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you're a guy, you're going to get that opportunity, but you have to show us first. And that's what this offseason is going to be about, and that's what, leading up to the season is going to be about, is how are you going to separate yourself? Whether you are a freshman, sophomore, junior, how are you going to separate yourself? Because nobody's, given a spot. We had to cut a senior even this year, and that's one of the hardest things to do, especially when you're emotionally invested in these kids and you have relationships with them. But they're just, not at that point that they need to be. But I'd say we have, a good core group of 10 to 13 kids that we truly believe and know if they do the necessary things over summer that they'll be our core group. But that leaves, handful of spots for other kids, no matter what class you are. So, yeah.
And I like what you said, too. It helps having a newer staff. I think it was Tim and I that were new, but going into it with the expectation of, I think we talked about this a lot during tryout week, it doesn't matter who was on the team last year, and it doesn't matter who's returning. Let's go into this with a fresh set of eyes, and let's just see what we got. And the evaluation week was really big for us because we just don't have a lot of time. So we had to get to know us. I had to get to know names and faces really quick. So, obviously going into next year, we have our first and second best pitcher back. So that's going to carry a lot of innings as well. And that's
huge. Pitching is
for us.
Everybody knows baseball.
And
pitching is everything. And from whatever level, it's from Little League to the majors.
Yep.
Right? It's all about pitching.
I think 3 or 4 of our top 5 innings are coming back and returning. So on the mound, I'm going to have an absolute great time next year,
Good.
I hope.
Good.
There's going to be a lot of work put into it, obviously. Some things that we need to get better at, even with the guys that we have. But I think for me, it's understanding, the guys that we do have coming back. I was learning throughout the year, what do they like? Right? Like, what is their good 0-2 pitch? What can they not throw? We got guys that can't throw an 0-2 high fastball. If they got sink on their fastball, we're not going to go up in the zone, right? So are we going out? Are we mixing it up with a breaking ball? What are we doing, right? And also understanding with these guys, this is important too. We talked about this a lot, was who do they like catching them? And I think that's a big thing that people don't understand. We had 2 really good catchers this year that split innings and split games for us. And it came down to talk to the pitcher. Who are you comfortable with on the mound? Who's your guy? Get that catcher with them. And I think we saw that really actually help throughout the year and stayed consistent for us. So, I'm excited. We got our catcher returning as well. We got some young catchers, too, in the program. And then we also have Bane Pelechek, who's an absolute great leader. He's going to be a little bit of an older guy for us next year as well. So just letting these guys compete and fight for spots. And we'll see how it plays out.
Nice. Quick one last thing. You guys are having your bag tournament this year, sometime next year, correct? Which was an incredible event. I thought it was awesome. It's a good time. So we'll share that on our Facebook page once you guys get it out there, the Benchwarmer page, and myself. And then anything else you got planned for fundraising this year? Anything that
Big one, baby.
Yeah, anything. Yeah. I mean, you got a bunch. I'm sure anything like.
We got a fun one coming.
Okay, what is it? Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually just got our booster club set up during the season. So
Nice.
that opens up a lot of avenues for us. So Jason over at Sheridan Lanes, we've talked. We're going to get a bags date for the summer setup,
Nice.
which will be open to everybody.
Are you going to do dart ball too? Are you thinking
so
about dart ball?
We're talking about it. Glidden loves dart ball. So I think we're going to kind of do a similar thing with the Appleton Challenges. Every coach is going to kind of, pick something that they like, and maybe we can go forward with it. Obviously,
Nice.
it has to pass the booster club. But we've talked about doing a bowling tournament, a little 9-pin bowling tournament, bags tournament, dart ball. And then eventually, this is a goal, maybe next summer or the summer after that, we would like to do a golf outing.
Nice.
Whether that's at Twin Lakes or Pets or Bristol. But, yeah, we just want to get the community back involved and, support our program because these kids are working hard. And we want to give them new things, right? We want to have the best things available. If you're a top 5 school, and it's kind of, tough for Kenosha because we have so many high schools, and it's tough to compete with the Arrowheads and, the Kimberleys and the Muskegos that just got a $1 or $2 million football facility. We know we're not going to get that, but we need a new bubble, right? Where do we get that from? We get that from people that donate to us, from fundraising. There's a lot of things that we need. And a lot of things that I'd want to have.
The wish list is always nice, huh?
Absolutely. But, just knocking that out and, like I said, getting involved in the community, bringing people in from all parts of the community and them knowing who they're supporting will be cool. And it's obviously always a good time when you're doing a bags tournament and the drinks are flowing a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot of questions about that during our bags tournament, but it's at Indian Trail.
tough in a
so
high
you
school.
can't do that, right?
Yeah, and that's
So
like
a lot
I
of
said,
requests.
opens
Yeah.
up a lot of doors having that
Yes.
booster club.
And then a big one that you might have forgot about. I don't know if we're doing it still, but maybe keep your eyes out for a dodgeball tournament.
Oh,
we're
nice.
for sure. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're for sure going to do that. That one will be within the school. I don't know if the booster club will run that or not.
Get D'Angelo to help you out with that one.
Yeah, he's helped out with the Mahone
Everything you
one, so-
named, I would be participating except for dodgeball. That's the only thing I would.
You can be a ref.
I come hang out.
You can be a ref.
You can be
maybe.
you can be like Cotton from ESPN The Only Show.
yeah. We can announce it, maybe. We can announce it, the Benchwarmers. So.
But yeah, and speaking about sponsorship, if anybody wants to sponsor
Yeah.
lights for us,
Yes.
No kidding.
Well, we'll start small. That is the goal, right?
You want to try to get lights at the stadium?
We do want to get lights. There's a lot of hoops that we have to jump through because.
Can I say have a 7 o'clock game on a Thursday or something? That'd be great.
You know how sweet it would be every Friday night to just have a 6 o'clock start.
Friday night baseball.
Yeah, the parents don't have to worry about getting off of work early.
Or you do 2 games then that day.
You
get like a
could do
JV game.
Yeah, then JV can play at a time where their parents come see him. Maybe
Yeah.
They can play on
Right.
the varsity
at
field.
5.
Right.
And you get that'd be great. That would be awesome.
And that's something too, right? Is it was cool to see how many people in the community do support us, and how much we saw at that Greenfield game.
Yep.
Like I looked back, I've seen you at a couple games, but I looked back and I saw you with a bigger group of people than normal, right?
Yeah.
So it just helps get us out there, and there's nothing better than watching a Friday night game, whether it's high school, college, whatever
And
it is.
basketball,
right?
football,
It doesn't matter what
baseball.
sport
It's
it
fun.
is.
Just a
It's
nice
fun.
night, go hang out and
high school sports are entertaining when it's high quality.
Yes.
I'm not making fun of bad teams, but yeah, it's not fun to go watch bad teams.
Right.
But when you got high quality teams playing each other that you know are. Or a city rivalry game.
Right.
Yeah,
Trump for you guys.
like
Brad for
that's.
you guys.
I know
you
something that's I've said a few times is next year I want to try and do one at home, one at Trumper, and then Friday night at Simmons.
Yeah.
I think that would draw.
Simmons is now with Simmons. Like, do you know if that at all? Would they like donate that to you guys?
Well,
that's the
I
thing
know
that their
St.
big
Joe's
thing
plays there. I
is
think
their big thing is play one, come to one.
Yeah.
Play a game there, and then both teams you sell tickets and you try to come to a game.
Kingfish game.
Yep, a Kingfish game once the season starts.
But yeah, I know a lot of guys on the the operations side. I know Ryan. I know Andrew Curtis. So it's definitely something that we want to talk about. I've even mentioned to Nick Myers, our AD, I'd like to be able to host a sectional.
Yep.
And until we get lights at Indian Trail, I don't know how possible that is. I know they did move up the game time, so it's 10, 1, and 4 now. So it still could be possible.
That'd be nice, though. Because you guys would make money off concession and stuff for that, right?
Right.
Entrance fees.
And that's the other thing too is
You'd have to just put like a snow fence up there
that's what
because
we-
they don't know.
Yep.
But that's
And that's why Carthage and historic Simmons Field are a better option, just because they already have that set up for
correct.
you.
Yep.
also you could maybe get sectional there.
Right.
That'd be great.
And that's one thing that, like I said, once the Northwoods Kingfish schedule comes out for next summer, if they're on the road, that would be something that'd be awesome. Because when you're looking at the Appleton sectional, the Janesville sectional, some of these teams are at minor league stadiums, and that's cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
That ups the ante. The kids want to play a little bit harder,
draw a crowd a little more too.
That's
yeah.
not necessarily how it should be, right? The kids should always be playing hard, but when we played in freaking Atlanta, in Florida at the Atlanta Braves spring training facility, I think that was the best Indian Trail has ever freaking played. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like, we played a
Thought we were in the big
Kentucky
leagues.
team.
Yeah.
We played a Kentucky team that had like 8 or 9 D1 commits, and we beat them not once but twice. Right? So, like, kids like playing in that environment. It's sweet. And playing on a field like that is amazing too.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the atmosphere thing that you talked about too, and seeing more people at the games. I think the end goal here would be, to have families come out that have no affiliation with Indian Trail, but they have young kids that may be going there in the future, and they just want to be an Indian Trail baseball player one day. A lot of these programs, like we talked about with Arrowhead and Kimberly, I grew up in the Kimberly School District. All I wanted to do was be a Kimberly High School baseball player. It sounds crazy, but that was true at a young age. And I think that once you get some of that stuff, it starts to build the culture a little bit better. Then you actually get better ball players as well. And we don't have kids leaving and going to Central or leaving and going somewhere else.
Well, in those small towns, like you say, too, it's I know it's football, but it's a Friday Night Lights concept.
Yes.
It really is. It's the concept of selling. You're selling sports to kids.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
You have
And
the
not- not in a
facilities
ba-
draw all
and-
the money coming to
and
it.
not in a
Yep.
bad way.
Right.
It's
I
not
mean,
like
it's
you're,
free
it's
charge.
just like going, hey, I want to do this one day.
Right.
Look at these people cheering for me.
And it helps our kids too.
Well, and I mean,
I get to run on the field and I get to run through whatever, and it's
I get it as a player on the team when you look around in the stands and nobody's there. It seems like meaningful baseball sometimes,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of times where you play it. Let's just say you play at Racine Park, right? It may be hard to get people to come out to the game and really enjoy themselves because they might not be interested, right?
Yep.
But when you start getting people coming to the games, the players see that and they feel better about themselves and they want to play harder and they want to actually show and set a standard for kids. And they realize that it's more than just, a 7-inning baseball game at that point. You're actually having kids look up to you. So that's the fun stuff.
Yeah, and I know that it's kind of funny, but high school and college are almost flipped. You have the draw of kids wanting to go to these smaller schools because they know that's the money goes into these sport programs, and they know that these programs are built up. Where obviously college, why do I want to go to a small school when I go to Alabama? They're going to give me $1 million to play, and I get to go live in an apartment pretty much, all paid for. But high school is that reverse effect where why do I want to go to a Kenosha school when I have a relative who lives in the McWanago district. I could go there and play at their facilities. So
that's the one challenge that we have in Kenosha, right? We have the multiple high schools where even though you're going to a smaller school at a Central or a McWanago, you're gonna get what you need and want. Right? Yeah, it's one high school. So this booster club will be huge in helping us bring in the funds and making Indian Trail baseball something that people want to go to. Whether we are playing a park, whether we are playing, a racing case or an Arrowhead. And that's one thing too that you mentioned earlier is high caliber baseball. That was one thing we did a good job of this year was every out of conference team that we had. I think Mosinee at state.
Correct.
I think Arrowhead's at state. Who else did we play? Lake Forest. They had a really good ball club.
Union Grove had a good run.
Union Grove had a good run. They lost to Badger, who lost to Atosa Central, and then Waterford. Good old Matt Reed. It was awesome to have my first high school game against him. They had a down year, but they're always a good ball program. So our out of conference schedule really hammers that because we are kind of tied into the 21 games of the 21 or 26 being in conference. But once Oak Creek leaves, that'll open up a few more non-conference games too. So that'll be cool. Nice. Bringing an Arrowhead in and the community being like, oh crap, we got Arrowhead in here. Let's go check this out, right? Like seeing good baseball or seeing good football, whatever it is. It's something that adults want to do because they do want to show that they support the community and that they're supporting these kids.
Yeah. So we'll look forward to the bags during this summer. We'll look for that. That'd be entertaining. And dart ball, whatever else is involved, maybe bowling, like you said. And then we'll look forward to we're going to say next year's state run when you guys get back to business. In,
Absolutely,
February, right? You guys start up usually February.
Yeah, so we'll have open gyms once we get back from winter break. We'll have them in the fall as well. Like I said, it'll be nice having a full off season. Yeah. For me, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge and kind of figuring out how to go about coaching football. And doing the open gyms. But that's why I signed up for this, right? So it'll be nice. We start end of January, early February, and then I think our first or second week of March is when pitchers and catchers report. So it'll come by quick, man. The older we get, the more this time flies by.
Faster it
I'm
goes.
finding that out.
Yep. So I'd like to thank you guys, Coach Hoerter, Coach Ochs. Thank you, Jace. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I will say, great season once again from you guys. First regional championship since Hoerter was on the team 7 years ago. Okay. First playoff win in about 5 years. Well, it would be 6 years, not counting 2020. Okay. So 5-6 years then. And then, obviously, runner-up to sectional. So
well, and let's not forget to shout out Jace, too, and what he did for our ball club this year as well. All the stuff around the field as well. And he had that thing sounding like Wrigley Field when we were playing. And we actually got a lot of compliments.
That's how you getting those fans out, man.
I'm telling
you go.
We enjoyed it. So we appreciate it.
We appreciate everything you do, man. I know I say it a lot, but...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I try. Somebody's got to take care of it, and I like doing it. So I'll always be there, give it something.
Awesome.
So So yet again, thank you guys.
Thanks. And congratulations for your first season. Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for having us on.